This guy falsely claimed I was stealing his content and didn't provide any proof, but today we're going to break down his statements. Firstly, let's remember that his ever aim video was on the 2nd February 2025. In his video, he doesn't explain what it is I copy and sadly provides no proof or examples to his statements, but I'll explain it to you. I supposedly copied from this video with this video. These are just some bullet points side by side, and you guys can see what the videos are about. Here he says this.
I've come to after 18 months of reaching the top level, actually. This one was about fluidity and precision. Really, this picture, you might as well erase the word fluidity there. Just write the word speed. Let's see what Mr. Forbanger came up with here. Oh, it's just my topic. It's just everything that I said.
His big case and supposed proof of me copying his entire video is that I'm saying the term precision and speed when he used fluidity and speed. To me and the majority of people, we can see that this is just basic terms people use on a daily basis. But it's supposedly the proof he lays, and he frames it as a key point for me stealing the entire video. I think it's very clear that they're just basic terminologies, and I wouldn't blame you for being just as surprised as I am. Surf didn't actually make any connections to mine or his aim theories that we talked about in the video. But in fact, a couple seconds later, I explain that it's about using both precision and speed in your playlist and not sticking to a uniform idea, like target switching for speed and pokeball for lines, which is something I brought up multiple times since before the creation of his first ever aim video. To fix this, play pokeball more slowly and supplement it with target switching for speed. As you can see, I did in fact speak about this subject a year earlier than him, and I'm sure I can find even earlier connections. This sort of feels like him forcing a connection despite there not being one. It's hard to believe claims like, and I quote, "He copied my whole video," then provides no proof besides basic terms we've been using from the start. But since this video is rather emotional, I'll break down exactly the videos side by side, and I won't use words like fraud, scammer, or liar. I'll show you the proof and let you judge yourself. The video references a playlist that uses basic conditioning. Conditioning is using variations of scenarios to improve at a specific goal. So if I, for example, lack precision, you'd use a slower, more precise version of that scenario with the goal to improve your precision, like Smoothbot Extra before Smoothbot, which is actually a great idea and something I brought up again even before his channel creations. Here we can also see it in 2022.
Close fast strafes easy, close fast strafes, and thirdly, close fast strafes thin.
Here,
for example, you might have a bad smoothbot score. The solution might actually be to play other forms of precision smoothness.
And here again in 2022, I talk about when to use precision scenarios and when to use speed scenarios and how to put them together, as well as when to challenge yourself.
Now look at it in game. Unless you're practicing for speed, you shouldn't consistently show your brain that these things are okay. Show your brain that hitting larger targets slowly is not okay. You need to be challenging yourself, and that's what all this is about. You need to move your hand faster. If you often land on the target without having to micro adjust, you're probably doing things too slow.
Here's yet another video about the topic, again showing brief clips here for the sake of time, but feel free to check them out yourself.
It's created and the person simply picks scenarios that feel good for them. The problem is that this creates an over or under saturation in the minuscule fields.
As you can see, his whole idea about not spamming a scenario by using assisting scenarios around it to achieve your goal is something I've been heavily invested in.
Talking to a client, use an example from a client, and then it goes into my whole topic.
He also talks about me stealing the techniques I used on my client when it's something I covered in my FAQ here, and it's the basics of pushing yourself, which in my FAQ and videos extensively talk about. Here he says another blanket statement without providing any proof or side-by-sides about what he's talking about and what I'm talking about, despite being a very serious allegation. So you guys can see a trend being created here. In the comments, he also claims I stole progressive overload, which is again something I brought up multiple times before he made his channel, including my 2024 FAQ, which started work in 2023. My entire Zero to Hero playlist collection, which are about each week getting progressively harder, which is the definition of progressive overload. He also means that I stole his difficulty thresholds and went to progress, but it's something I've extensively written about in my FAQs here. He also has a full playlist where you play different scenarios day by day, which may sound familiar to you guys. Now, if you say someone stole something, it's best to do your research to find out if it's already talked about. But I want to remind the viewer that terms like conditioning, overload, etc. have been around forever, and nobody can really claim ownership of something that exists in all aspects of life. In fact, here's Inns in 2021 writing about conditioning and Torje in 2022 creating a playlist around it. This concept is something you can take anywhere. If you want to eat more apples, eat 1 a day, 2 the next day, and 3 the other. Then you successfully created progressive overload. In fact, I got most of my theories from working out, something I've done gaining research and experience for more than 15 years. I don't get this information from someone who created his first videos a couple months ago. The example of this student who doesn't know how to push speed is an excellent time to speak about our approaches. I speak about how if you're overflicking, you should slow down and focus on technique, and if you're creating perfect flicks, you should speed up. His concept, on the other hand, speaks about using stats like accuracy to determine your approach. I look at habits and behaviorisms, he looks at the stats. Different people respond to different things, so it's therefore up to you to judge what you believe is the more optimal approach. So yeah, the dates aren't really in his favor, and this breakdown is just a single example from one of his videos. I could go into heavy detail surrounding his other videos, but for now, all we need to do is keep it basic. The truth is, he may think he did a better job. But labeling it as stealing a whole concept is just factually incorrect. You're basing your work off mine and other theories that are already well documented. Just search progressive overload and find a boatload of workout information. The claims in his videos or in the document he references are clearly very biased and mostly emotional arguments. Otherwise, you wouldn't try to claim your approach as facts above another person's opinion. That's dogmatic. It's clear to me that these people are interested in manipulating emotions of their audiences, otherwise they wouldn't advertise their coaching on a supposed stealing content video, and they wouldn't disguise their opinions about AIM as raw scientific data. Now I'll showcase some examples of my work going under the radar. Confirmations were something that was loosely around before I started, yet the term wasn't at all explained. Why it's necessary, what it did for us, and how to properly use it. When I was the first to properly explain confirmations, nobody gave me credit. Yet they still used my techniques. Now it's a widespread and accepted technique. Here was my first ever video, which was the earliest explanation of my confirmation work, which I later go into more detail here. And I keep also bringing up the subject in videos like this, nor about my technique of flicking smoothly instead of snapping, which I shine a light on before anyone else.
Boom. Boom. It's like that initial flick is so fast.
Again, the same people who use this to this day keep calling me names and acting like it was their own inventions. Due to the negativity or drama, people refuse to allot my ideas with me. Another creator will then use the same subject to make a video, and mine gets brushed aside since they often manipulate people's emotion. Something we'll get much more into detail soon. But it clearly doesn't work since the dates aren't in their favor. You can simply do a little bit of research on your own and find that out. Surf is simply bandwagoning off what's popular to say right now. He also talks about shimmy, which I could go into heavy detail on, and I will. Surf was constantly bragging about how he was his friend and how Shimmy's videos were so helpful and a must watch. Then the second social media left him, he turned tables and talked trash about him in every opportunity he got. Even in a video about my content. You're allowed to treat your friends the way you want, but I personally wouldn't go all over social media and use any occasion to trash him. At least talk to the guy and see what happens, not just thrown to the dirt the second the sentiment changes. After that, there's also the case of Faniac, a very prominent smoothness aimer. When Faniac was falsely banned by Kovaaks for cheating, Surf was one of the first person to publicly call him out and essentially trash him. But the second the sentiment changes and Faniac actually showed that he wasn't cheating through hand cams, videos, and live monitor setups, he instantly started deleting all the tweets. My point of this is really to show this person's true character. He bandwagons off popular opinions, and when that opinion sways, he immediately shifts his opinion and changes his mind just to keep his public image. Firstly, I understand his video is done more out of emotion, but you can't really call someone out like he did and provide 0 timestamps, 0 side-by-side comparisons, 0 quotes, 0 examples of unique terminology. That sort of stuff has to be held to a higher standard. When you claim someone stole your idea but can't show a single side-by-side example, the argument collapses. More importantly, you can't treat broad aim training concepts like speed as stolen artwork. One of the first things he actually brings up is 4BK built a reputation as someone you can pay and get better. Yes, I built this reputation since I have years of stacked proof of successful coaching, which of course they conveniently don't bring up. He nor other coaches can provide you the same amount of proof as I have. In fact, many of them don't have any proof of their coaching being successful besides their own high scores, which are misleading. Talent or endless grinding doesn't equate to understanding or teaching aim theory. I also have insights into how I coach here, and people can judge for themselves.
If you go to 4banger Kovaaks, you're going to be clicking dots and you're going to be...
At the end of the day, having years of back-end customer-provided proof is something he nor other coaches can provide you. If you want to showcase your coaching, you don't really do it by discrediting other coaches and going for personal attacks. Yet, it's sadly a tactic they frequently go back to. You credit yourself by showing yourself to be a good coach. In the video, he uses a single example for why he's a good coach, while I have years of testimonies, video proof of direct results, recommendations, and thousands of satisfied customers. I also think it's pretty poor taste to try to fakely expose someone like this, all while advertising your own coaching.
In the last 2 weeks, I've picked up aim coaching. I'm not the only person that he's stolen things. The thing is, if he just mentioned my name, if he just said, yeah, this is something that we all got from corporate surf, but I tested it myself, and here's my variation.
In reality, as you've seen, content I provide, I've spoken about before he even created his first AIM video.
I'm not a brilliant man. I'm not a multi-skilled man.
You know when you hear a rumor at school about someone and you don't quite know if it's true or not? Yeah, this is like that. Except now, as you can see, clear as day, this rumor is false, and the person who spread that rumor to begin with knew it all along. Here, he also makes another bold claim with a blanket statement saying, I'm not the only person I've stolen something from, then provides 0 examples. Aim training mains have a habit of spreading this negativity to create childish drama, and sadly, their younger audiences soak it up and are ready to bandwagon that same mentality. Just go into any popular Discord and speak my name, and you'll see a flood of hate that the YouTubers themselves are behind. That's sadly the culture they've created. Now, he also mentions me copying his title. I'll let you guys compare the two here, and you'll see the only word similar is secret. Words like secret, shocking, etc. are standard YouTube SEO formatting, which he knows as a YouTuber. These are essentially words used to boost attention and is yet another emotional claim. In fact, if we go by his standard, one word means stolen title, so he stole my title here, right? Here's something I think is a lot more identical to what I've created. Now, I want to be clear. Can I blame this creator? No, I legitimately am not interested in portraying different creators in a bad light despite the public relations. I'm explaining that in a competitive, saturated market, basic terminology from someone who just arrived to a scene filled with pre-existing information cannot be counted as stealing. If I pointed out every single person who used a similar term or title as me, I'd be doing this sort of video every week. See, when I created my video talking about Bart Pill not being optimal, I had and still have 0 animosity towards that person. I don't really know him. But again, I speak about the technique. My video isn't about Bardoz's awesome personality, and I actually think some of his latest videos are great. I'm able to separate what I believe about the technique and what I believe about the person. I can also talk about someone without going for personal attacks or resorting to calling them a scammer every second, which they loosely throw around, obviously with the intention of interfering with my coaching business. Again, a scam means to market something and then not provide that product or provide it at a poor level of quality. But I want to ask you, the viewer, to use your common sense to verify if this really sounds like dissatisfied customers or if these stats lie. You as a viewer have to be able to decide what matters the most, this proof or their opinion. Now, I'll be honest, aren't the best proof, but I generally haven't watched any of his videos. I watched some of his content long ago, very briefly, and got off it because it's very Kovaaks cheesy, which isn't really for me. As I've shown you in this video, it's not only him taking concepts I spoke about before him, it's me updating my own concepts, my own videos and theories I brought to the table. I'm often adding additional information to my old videos, which I'm allowed to do. You, however, cannot claim something is stolen when the dates don't lie. Here's an example of me updating an older video.
What does that tell us? It tells us that Kovaaks is a habit builder more than an aim trainer. So we need to build good habits and avoid making bad ones. How do we do that?
This is because of you and the bad habits you have taught your body. It's not Kovaaks making mistakes, it's your brain embodying what you learned elsewhere. But not everything is about technique. Training is simply a reaction of your habits that come out when you're forced to rely on raw reactions.
It's clearly business 101 to try to ruin the other guy's reputation, especially if the other guy is working very hard and has a long list of proof his strategies work. So it's up to the viewer if you still want to trust these people's claims, since I can break apart the document they spent years creating without any issues. Now, I want to show you the type of people they are creating. These people are just one small example that believe I'm a Jewish neo-ninja clone who has a top percentile tile frenzy run, which to my viewers is clearly insane. But sadly, these are the people who don't even watch my videos and blindly fall for the false information these creators are spreading. To the entire drama that's unfolded all throughout my career, my coaching and videos kept going up. That's happening for a very clear reason. The only people you see talking bad about me are the creators, and in turn, their younger audiences follow. The adults who don't lack critical thinking and have an ability to sense bullshit can actually decide themselves, and that's why my content and coaching thrives despite their best effort. In fact, a lot of people in the comments were quick to call this out. Now, maybe you understand some concepts better elsewhere. That's completely okay. What isn't is talking nonstop hate. It's been like this since the moment I uploaded my first video, and it's because I was never one to go with pre-existing notions that existed. I always wanted to explore, find new things, and break a couple of eggs, not just listen to top aimers and get them on my side. This is something the aimers with a large following don't like. Why? Because you're essentially saying they're wrong. In fact, I remember suggesting we should stop spamming benchmarks and focus less on Kovaaks cheese techniques that existed at the time. Of course, the creators who pushed that didn't like my pointers and instantly went to work creating drama. And I'm very glad to say the community notion and those same creators have drastically changed their aim theories since then. Yet, as you can see by this big push, their hate still resides. They clearly have an interest with calling me out when I almost never spoken about them. I'm simply focused on aim theory, and it's very clear I'm being targeted. Now, I'll be honest and say many people don't understand my videos for a single reason. My explanations don't click for younger audiences. Why? I don't believe in giving people the simple answers. I believe a person will take that information and forget about it by the time they open Kovaaks. I believe in creating little seeds in their minds and let that thought expand in the way their own brain understands it best. I truly believe the best lessons you'll ever get is a lesson you felt came from yourself. So you insert little tidbits to help that grow. For example, instead of saying play speed scenarios for this issue, I say speed helps with late reactions. When this person then has a late reaction, he will connect the dots. And it's something I picked up from this book here, and is a reason I rarely market my work as a 4BK technique. And we all know most younger audiences would rather just have an easier answer, which I also understand. But in turn, other creators may get more of these quote unquote kid views and get nothing from their coaching. When they then see me doing great, it stirs up a lot of emotion since aim training mains will always believe their work is universally the best and will work for everyone. Surf also talks about putting in so much work into this.
I put tons of hours into this. Be good at this.
And I need you guys to listen up here. He's been doing this for a couple months. I've been doing it for 5 years. I've created 2 free 30-page FAQs, multiple free lessons and free challenges in my Discord, almost 400 videos with like 500 free playlists neatly categorized into specific issues, a flowchart you can navigate to find your issues, multiple benchmarks with unique twists, multiple brand new techniques, and explained hundreds of existing techniques, and that's just to mention a part of it. But I think you guys get the picture. I'll be honest with each other here and say not everyone contributes equally. See, the moment someone starts calling you names instead of arguing specific, they're clearly acting emotionally. I think Bardos in his latest video makes a great case, where he wants to introduce more science and testing into the field as opposed to approving a message simply because that person is popular. And I agree with him 100%. I need you guys to remember that anything can sound convincing but doesn't have to be true. We need to stop hating on each other because you don't agree with how others teach or that a specific technique worked for you or not. I want to remind you that this field is highly individual. There are no facts and no scientific data. All we have right now are opinions. So what should we do about all this? Well, firstly, I don't want you to go around and hate on anyone. I don't want to see any tweets or hateful messages. I simply want people to see the truth, see what I've created, and stop spreading hate and misinformation about who I am. This collaborated and planned push against me from multiple sides already tells you what you need to know. Because if you don't like my videos, that's completely fine, but I want you, the viewer, to understand that these are ludicrous claims that are going to be countered by the truth. To Surf or any other creator, if you genuinely have a quarrel with me, I suggest shooting me a DM, and I can easily send a video or time I've spoken about the topic you're wondering about. I also genuinely encourage the AIM community to stop rage baiting and start talking. I invite Surf or anyone who has a quarrel with me to hop on a podcast, can even be on their channel. Maybe I'm wrong about something, maybe I can learn something, maybe you can learn something, who knows? But active conversation is what will bring this community forward. Again, I truly believe my ideas or anyone else's ideas aren't our product, but a way to help people with a goal. They shouldn't be marketed as many of my peers or even I have recently started doing. Since, like this video proves, I've started doing that since a lot of people don't know where my ideas came from. I don't care if it's shimmy technique and that it banks off my idea of not having a hard initial and a slow micro. I care if the idea is good and progresses the thought. I generally have no hate towards anyone, and if I did, I don't have an issue saying it publicly. I'm not really the person who has a filter for the public but then am someone else privately. Any YouTuber who goes into this with the goal of helping people, even if you don't do it in my exact way, then you're good in my book. That includes even the people who speak ill of me. The Lord has taught me that loving the person who loves you isn't hard, but loving your enemies is. And I try to live by that now, and there's a reason why people keep bringing up very old tweets from 2 to 3 years ago, and if that's all you want to judge me on, that's fine. I may speak about this subject more in the future, and I definitely will be addressing more of these false allegations. But what's happening now of everyone just rage baiting each other is what will genuinely keep us down. You can think of what you want from me, but you can't deny the fact that I've helped countless of people, and I can show examples of this all day. It doesn't matter if you helped someone in your way or in my way, we all want the same thing, which is to help people progress, and that's what I urge the community to do. Instead of viewing your opinion as superior to anyone else, we need to just start talking. Lastly, I want to finish with something very important. I've seen a lot of different coaches' work. I've seen how they think privately and what sort of playlists they create for clients. And I can with extreme confidence say a lot of the methods going around, whether it's me or other people, are extremely similar, just using different wording. That's the raw truth you won't hear anyone else saying. I was very early with a lot of techniques, and there are people who were even earlier than me as well, but the newer generation are simply repeating what's known in different phrases. At the same time, they're too afraid to speak up about what's traditionally known. We need more exploration in a very opinionated field. The issue is anytime that happens, the bigger community members immediately displace that person and blacklist him. If these so-called AIM influencers don't just want to sit and pocket the views and the money, your AIM training scene will be going nowhere.